The laughter at the dinner table was warm, effortless, until she said it. Maybe I married too young. Clara's tone was light, teasing, as she swirled the wine in her glass. But her words sliced through the easy chatter like a sharp blade through silk. Forks paused midair. Smiles faltered. Someone at the far end forced an uneasy laugh, thinking it was a joke. But I wasn't laughing. I knew that look on her face, the wistful smile, the faraway eyes. And the way her gaze lingered just a second too long on the man sitting beside her, her old college friend, Ethan. The same man who used to send her messages that made her blush years ago, before we ever married. This wasn't a careless comment. It was a confession wrapped in nostalgia. So I smiled, steady and quiet. Maybe you did, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. But some of us didn't marry for fun, Clara. Some of us meant every word we said. The silence that followed was suffocating. Clara and I had been married 10 years. We'd met back in college. She, the unpredictable art student who saw beauty in chaos. Me, the quiet engineer who never imagined someone like her would notice a guy like me. She made me feel alive, reckless, wanted. For a long time, I believed what we had was unshakable. But lately, I'd started to see the cracks. Late nights at the studio turned into whole weekends away. Her phone, once tossed casually on the couch, now never left her side. Her laughter sounded rehearsed around me, and every time I walked into a room, she'd lock her screen with a too-casual smile that meant only one thing. There were parts of her life she didn't want me to see. I told myself I was imagining it, that I trusted her, that love meant believing even when you shouldn't. Then the reunion came. Clara lit up the moment the invitation arrived. 10 years since college. Can you believe it? She said, twirling in front of the mirror as she tried on dresses. You'll come with me, right? Of course, I said. Her smile faltered for just a second, barely noticeable, but I caught it. The kind of flicker that told me she hadn't expected me to say yes. The reunion was held at a lakeside restaurant just outside the city. Soft jazz floated through the air. Candlelight shimmered on polished glasses. The scent of wine and nostalgia filled the room. Heads turned when we walked in. Clara always had that effect, effortless grace, a magnetism that made people notice. She hugged everyone, laughed freely, glowing in a way I hadn't seen in months. Then I saw him. Ethan Reynolds. The same Ethan who was just a friend. The same Ethan whose late-night messages I'd stumbled across years ago. Flirty jokes, inside references, half-hidden affection she'd brushed off as harmless. He stood tall, confident, holding 2 glasses of champagne. And when Clara saw him, her face lit up in a way it hadn't for me in a long time. Ethan, she gasped, running into his arms. I extended my hand, polite but stiff. Good to see you again. He smiled faintly, but his eyes didn't meet mine. Dinner was a quiet storm. Clara and Ethan sat across from each other, trading stories that belonged to a world I was never part of. Remember that art trip to Florence? Ethan laughed. You almost got us kicked out of the museum. Clara giggled, brushing his arm. We were such a mess back then. He smirked. Still are. Something dark flickered in his tone, something only I seemed to hear. I stared down at my plate, forcing a smile while my chest felt like it was caving in. My fork trembled as I lifted it. And then she said it. Maybe I married too young. The words drifted into the silence, like smoke, and I let them burn. Maybe you did, I replied softly. But I married the woman I loved. I just wish she'd loved me the same way. The room froze. Clara's color drained. Ethan's smirk vanished. James, that's not what I meant, she stammered. Sure it isn't, I said with a calm smile. Just reminiscing, right? No one spoke again. The car ride home was thick with rain and silence. The windshield wipers kept time with the storm. Finally, she spoke. You embarrassed me. I laughed, a hollow, tired sound. You embarrassed us. Oh, for God's sake, James, it was a joke. Everyone was talking about the past. You weren't talking about the past, I said quietly. You were feeling it. Her eyes flashed with anger. You're being paranoid. Ethan's just an old friend. Then why did you delete your messages with him last week? Her breath caught. You went through my phone? I didn't have to, I said. You forgot to clear the notifications this time. The silence that followed said more than any argument ever could. It's not what you think, she whispered. It never is, I replied. The days that followed were empty, two strangers moving through the same house, speaking only in passing. Her eyes avoided mine. Mine avoided her excuses. But the truth has a way of finding light. One evening, she came home late again, smelling faintly of a man's cologne that wasn't mine. She said she'd been at the gallery, but there was a smear of lipstick, wrong shade, on her blouse. That was the night I stopped hoping. I didn't shout. I didn't accuse. I just asked quietly, was it worth it? She froze. What? Throwing away 10 years for a few nights pretending you're 20 again. Tears welled in her eyes. James, please. I'm not angry, I said softly. Just tired. A week later, she packed a bag. Said she needed space. I let her go. The house was unbearable after she left, her perfume fading from the curtains, her books still stacked beside the bed. For days, I sat staring at the empty chair across from me, wondering when love had turned into absence. Was it the routine? The years? Or had she always been halfway gone, waiting for an excuse to leave? Love doesn't always end in one moment. Sometimes, it fades so quietly you don't notice until there's nothing left. Months passed. Then one morning, a letter slid under my door, her handwriting still neat and familiar. James, you didn't deserve the way I treated you. You were kind when I was restless, patient when I was cruel. I thought excitement was love. I was wrong. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed to say I'm sorry. I didn't finish reading it. Some apologies arrive too late to matter. I folded it, placed it in a drawer, and stepped out into the morning light. A year later, I attended my own college reunion. Same restaurant, same soft jazz, same flicker of candles. But this time, no ghosts across the table. Someone asked, "How's Clara?" I smiled faintly. She's finding herself, I think. And for the first time in years, the words didn't hurt. I've learned betrayal doesn't always come as a lie or an affair. Sometimes it's quieter, the slow neglect of something sacred. But I also learned something else that night. Silence can speak louder than anger ever could. Because when I told her some of us meant our vows, what I really meant was I did. And that's something she'll never forget, long after the laughter fades.